Hello and welcome to the Future of Loyalty podcast with me, your host, Tom Peace. The Future of Loyalty are a series of informative and engaging podcasts with a laser focus on the emerging trends within the customer loyalty, engagement and CRM sector. I invite industry leaders and subject matter experts to discuss the future developments in customer strategy, and all our discussions are focused on where the industry is going next. Our discussions are fueled by a passion for new developments and innovations in the sector, and we aim for about 20 minutes, perfect for your coffee break, your lunchtime, or your journey home. If you enjoy this podcast, please subscribe at www.theloyaltypeople.global to get all our content direct to your inbox. And I'm joined today by Andrew Mann and Anders Mittag, both grocery loyalty experts, and we're today going to be talking about the challenges in the grocery loyalty sector. So over to you guys. Andrew, would you like to give us a quick intro, please?
Hi there, I'm Andrew Mann. I've got 20 years retail marketing leadership experience. I've run Tesco Clubcard, I've run Nectar at Sainsbury's, I've run the Sparks program at M&S, and I helped set up the co-op membership scheme. So I've pretty much done a lot of the schemes in the UK and understood what's happening around the world as I'm going.
Yeah, fantastic. It's a pleasure to have you, Andrew. Thanks. We're really looking forward to your insight. And Anders, would you like to give us a quick intro?
Yes, hello. My name is Anders Mittag. I'm the Chief Commercial Officer at Lobyco today. Worked the last 10 years in grocery retail, and the last 7 of them as heading up the loyalty program and digital channels for Coop Denmark, until we carved out the digital department into Lobyco, which is now an independent software company helping retailers globally.
Fantastic, thanks. And the grocery sector is something very close to my heart. Obviously, my business now works across many different sectors, but I spent 6 glorious years working for Nectar, and I have a really in-depth understanding of the grocery loyalty sector from there. And it's a sector that I really keep an eye on. It's what's going on at the minute. And there are lots of changes. We've seen in the news a lot of different things going on within the sector. And we'd just like to dive into some of those challenges. So, Andrew, can you give us a bit of insight as to what you think's going on in the grocery loyalty sector at the minute?
Well, I think the biggest challenge we're all facing is the cost of living crisis that's happening around the world, literally everywhere. And retailers are feeling massive levels of inflation and are concerned about what they're doing, and the first thing they do is they look around to see where they're going grocery shopping in terms of where we're getting to. I think the challenge here is how are the loyalty schemes adjusting to what's happening in the marketplace. And forward-looking retailers probably looked at this 2 or 3 years ago because they could see it coming. But basically, the objectives of a loyalty scheme probably haven't changed. You want to be looking at growing penetration, growing frequency, but you redefine those objectives as you go forward. The strategy may change slightly in terms of going forward. And in as much that you might want to say you'll invest more money or less money within the business, get money from outside of the business. But the thing that really is changing at the moment is the tactical executions around what's happening with the loyalty scheme and how the proposition is developing, which is what we're seeing.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think in terms of the economies of a loyalty program, I think that's why we're starting to see some quite significant changes within loyalty, especially with member pricing and things like that, right? Is there a reason why brands are starting to do that in the grocery sector? Anders, is this maybe to do with the fact that member penetration is down across the board?
Yeah, so generally we see that the consumers have lost a little bit the perceived value of a lot of loyalty programs. So they haven't really recognized the value, and therefore a lot of loyalty programs have actually seen a decline. So therefore some of the tactics that Andrew was mentioning before about member pricing, making it more transparent and appealing for the consumers to actually come back to the loyalty programs. That is what we're seeing out there. Because they want the consumers to see why should they be part of the loyalty program. They want to have it really clear what the benefit is. So therefore they make these membership pricing and other activities to make it more transparent.
Yeah, and is the member pricing, maybe it's a bit of both actually, but is the member pricing a reaction to the economy and the cost of living crisis, or is it a reaction to the fact that people have just kind of got a bit saturated with points and they're not as engaged with points as they used to be, or is it a bit of both?
I see both. I see definitely with the inflation started, all the supermarket, they need to show the market that they have very good prices to avoid everybody was moving towards discounts, because people were buying what you can say less expensive products and they were trading down. So the supermarkets, they really need to show the value of the loyalty program, and they can give good prices. So that's, I think it was both the inflation, but also to avoid the down trading of the consumers.
Yeah, of course, right.
I think the other thing, if you look at it from a strategic and sort of objectives perspective as well, those things haven't changed very much around how you run a loyalty scheme. Okay,
Yeah, right.
The difference, I think, if you look at what Tesco did, is they're pretty forward looking in terms of what's happening. So they made a decision that said, right, we're going to try and make. Let's just right. There's probably three things you need to do. Having run lots of different schemes, there's three things tactically you need to do to implement to make the scheme better for consumers and therefore better for you. The first thing is, look, if you make it more rewarding, relative to everyone else. The second thing is make it simpler to use. And then the third thing is engage your colleagues and the business around getting behind it. And those three things for me have always been tactically a very good way of implementing what you're doing. Yeah. And what you've sort of seen is Tesco have said, right, we know this cost of living crisis is going to be coming. Yeah, we're going to invest. They've effectively invested a £1.5 billion promotional investment and put it into member pricing, which is all of a sudden made the reward scheme much more rewarding for them in terms of simple ways of doing it. Now, the challenge is it's going to get relatively less, rewarding because everyone else is following them in terms of what. But the key thing is they had the first mover advantage, and I think you're seeing it happening very quickly in terms of what's happening.
Yeah, and it's sort of spread outside, certainly in the UK at least, it's spread outside of grocery. We're seeing some of the high street brands start to implement it, especially in pharmacy. I think Boots and Superdrug have both done similar things, although Superdrug have been doing it for a while, but in a slightly different way. But yeah, it's interesting to see a lot of loyalty brands are taking that stance.
Yeah, Pret a Manger do it now in terms of price. If you've got a Pret card and those.
Yeah, even the coffee shops.
Yes.
But we see a lot of global retailers looking at the UK and looking at that transformation that Tesco and the Clubcard prices has been doing. So this is not just a trend in the UK. This is global.
No, not at all. No, yeah, I know. Yeah, there's many retailers. I believe lots of the continental European and outside of Europe, a lot of retailers doing it, and that would suggest that it's not just about the economy. That the economy is global, so they're doing it because of that. But maybe penetration is down across the board. So I suppose that begs the question, maybe Anders, you could answer this one first of all, is how do the retailers re-engage and get that penetration back up other than the member pricing?
Yeah, so one of the trends we see is about gamified loyalty. So instead of rewarding people for giving them some points or some other simple rewards, we can see we want to reward people for changing their behavior and actually doing something that is also rewarding for the retailer. That could be reward people for shopping 3 times a month. It could be rewarding people for buying more fruit and vegetables, or it could be rewarding people to buy more organic. And if they do so, they get a certain badge or reward in the end. So we see a lot of these gamified or continuity programs out there.
Yeah, that's really good. I suppose that's instant as well, isn't it? And lots of people want instant reward now.
Good point.
Yeah, they don't want to wait 12 months for their points to be worth something. They want something tangible and immediate, but also maybe it gives them quite an emotional connection. If the brand is helping them and rewarding them for being more healthy, then they feel a bit more of an emotional connection.
Yeah, fully right. Just to touch on the first one, when we turned away from being this points-based, check-based system where you paid out bonus once a year in Denmark and turn it into a real-time gratification. We see an immediately uplift both in sales and perceived value. And when we launched what you can say in Denmark as well, I think it was one of the world's first CO2 trackers, where we actually gave people a CO2 footprint based on the last month's purchase. It really raised the level of engagement because you were giving these kind of insights back and helping people live a more healthy life.
Yeah, of course. So Andrew, maybe we could bring you in here, because all these behavioral, contextual kind of analytics and insight, we're going to need some more powerful machine learning and AI. Is that the answer here? Is it that brands need to invest in more sophisticated ways to deal with all this data and create these behavioral triggers that are specific to individuals?
Well, the short answer is yes. Okay, so you go back and but this is nothing new. This is just a trend that's been going on all the way through. So if you go back to when Jack Cohen first set up Tesco in 1918, he had a market stall. He knew his customers, and he knew which ones were his regular customers and which ones, and he could give them a little reward, an extra potato or whatever you needed to do in those sort of things. When you scale up a business into a grocery chain, back in the 90s and early 2000s, Tesco made the first leap to be able to use data to be more relevant and understand customers. All that's happening with the AI is it's the next stage in making your loyalty scheme more relevant to your customers, more rewarding and simpler for them to use. So anything that you're doing that does that, and it's just how an organization starts using the AI to drive against your own objectives rather than letting the AI go the way it wants to go to. So it's almost, one of the things I learned you've got to do is you've got to get really, really clear on your objectives, really clear on what you want the technology to do. And then the tech teams can really get away and make it happen in terms of what you need. But it's going to require, I think, the brand managers or the leaders of a loyalty scheme to be very, very specific around what their goals are, what they want to do in terms of a sort of lift conversation of very specific objectives, and then be very focused on where they think the priorities are around introducing AI. And it could be just making it easier to use, in terms of, and simpler to use, or it could be, making it more rewarding because we're giving you more relevant offers and letting you know about things more relevantly.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, fascinating. Anders, you got anything to add on the AI topic?
Yeah, we see a lot of interest of, more AI-driven promotions, if you can say so. There's a big trend towards more personalization. So we talked about member-based offerings, but we see a trend in also going more personalized offers. And here I see AI will have a big play. But we are also testing some use case about, you could imagine that you load your digital leaflet into an AI machine, then you ask the machine or the AI can you provide me with a recipe based on the offers in the leaflet if I'm a vegan or if I like meat or something else. So I think we are just starting the journey to see a lot of different use cases.
That is fascinating. And actually, going back 10 odd years when I was working at Nectar, that those sorts of things were in discussion then. And actually, that is a really interesting way to potentially create a revenue stream from the manufacturers. If you could get the manufacturers to engage in that, the suppliers to the grocers, then potentially there's a monetization angle there. And actually, maybe we catch up again for another podcast in a few weeks or so and talk about that, because that's also a very fascinating conversation. But for now, I think we'll leave it there. I'd just like to say a massive thank you and a little sum up of the, thanks. I think a little sum up would be, there is a challenge for grocers around getting people to engage. Potentially AI is the answer. Potentially member pricing is the answer. There is a backdrop even to a very difficult economic situation, which hopefully we're coming out the back of now. But it is a fascinating time for grocery retail. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah. All the best, viewers. Hope you enjoyed it. Please share and let people know. And we will be back to talk a little bit more about monetization and shopper insight.